G'day and welcome to episode 10 of Travel Pointers, the podcast for Australian frequent flyers. It's the 14th of April 2025 and I'm Matt Graham, the editor of AFF.
And I'm Wilson McTaggart, a writer at AFF and part of the Frequent Flyer Concierge team.
In this episode, we're going to talk about the strategies that we use to save money and find cheaper flights to destinations across Australia, as well as to places like Asia, Europe, and North America. It should be a very interesting discussion. But first, just a few headlines from the last couple of weeks. And in some quite exciting news, Fiji Airways has joined Oneworld, which means that you can now earn full Oneworld points and status credits and get all the Oneworld Alliance benefits when flying with Fiji Airways, and also use them as part of a Qantas Oneworld Classic Flight Reward, which is that great multi-city award that a lot of people use to fly around the world. Which is pretty good with Fiji Airways' good availability and no carrier charges. There's been a few changes as well to the Avios currency and programs that use Avios. British Airways has rebranded to British Airways Club and made their changes to tier points and status. British Airways also now partners with American Express membership rewards and pay rewards in Australia, so you can transfer Amex points over directly into British Airways Club now. Loganair as well has now started using Avios, which is quite interesting. Loganair is a regional airline in Scotland. They have the world's shortest flight, and they have flights to a bunch of sort of niche and quite unique places around like Scotland, the north of UK. So you can now transfer Avios from British Airways Club into Loganair Loyalty and redeem them for Loganair flights, which is kind of unique and niche. And Garuda Indonesia is now a partner of Qatar Airways, which means you can use Qatar Airways Avios to redeem for flights on Garuda Indonesia, including to Bali, where there's quite good availability in business class. United Airlines is going to fly to Adelaide, and I was really surprised by this. United probably has the most interesting route network of all of the US airlines. They're already going to be flying to Mongolia later this year and Greenland and a bunch of sort of unique places. But yeah, Adelaide is going to get its first non-stop flights to the United States. It'll be a 3-weekly Adelaide-San Francisco route running from December until March, so it'll be a seasonal route. And there's already availability to book with Velocity points in economy class. And we have some more information about the new Virgin Australia flights to Doha that are going to launch in June. What can you tell us about that, Wilson?
Yeah, Matt. So the first thing, and probably the most unique thing we've seen for these new Virgin Australia flights to Doha, is that Virgin Australia members and Qatar Privilege Club members will both get US $20 voucher for use in Doha. So this is a food and beverage sort of credit that you can use at a whole bunch of food beverage outlets such as Harrods Tea, Gordon Ramsay Burger. I think there's a total of about 60.
The one that was most exciting to me was KFC.
Maybe a bit of a reflection of your culinary choices there. But yeah, so it's a really unique sort of benefit and that's available for all Velocity members, even if you don't have status. Virgin Australia have also announced that you can upgrade on these flights to Doha using Velocity points. So if you book an economy flex fare, you'll be able to upgrade from economy to business class. And this is Qatar's Q Suite business class. It's not just any normal business class. And that's for 69,000 points one way. If you book an economy choice fare, you can upgrade for 99,000 points. That's Velocity points. But that's only available for Gold and Platinum members.
So how do these upgrades work? If you book a economy flex ticket, or if you're a Gold or Platinum member and book a choice ticket and you want to upgrade, is it going to be like Qantas where you just waitlist in the hope of getting an upgrade, or like is there a chance to get the upgrades confirmed in advance?
We believe that you can upgrade on Virgin Australia flights if there's a reward seat available. So the upgrade will be confirmed immediately. But this doesn't make sense for the Perth to Doha route because that's 89,500 Velocity points for a business class reward seat. But if you book an economy choice fare and you're a Gold and Platinum member, you'd be paying 99,000 Velocity points to upgrade on that same flight. So you'd effectively be paying 10,000 more points plus the cash fare to upgrade to the same seat that would be confirmed anyway. So watch this space. We'll wait and see how this one pans out. Red and Silver Velocity members will get discounted seat selection on these flights to Doha, while Gold and Platinum members get free seats, including extra legroom and preferred seats. So this is generally seats up the front of the plane. You do actually have to call up at the moment, although we're hoping that Velocity will make this available on their website as soon as possible. Lounge access for Velocity Gold and Platinum members is available departing both Australia and Doha. So in Doha, you'll get access to the Qatar Airways Platinum and Gold/Platinum lounges, depending on your status. From Australia, you'll get access to the Qatar Airways third-party lounges, such as the Air New Zealand Lounge in Sydney or the Mar Harbour Lounge in Melbourne. Other benefits for status members, such as increased baggage allowances, priority board-in, and check-in, are also confirmed on these flights, which is great to hear.
I guess these will be Virgin Australia's only international flights that actually include lounge access.
Yeah, so it's a bit ridiculous that you can't get lounge access if you're flying to Queenstown, but flying to Doha, yeah, it's no problem.
Yeah, there you go. Well, everyone loves to get a good travel deal, and that, of course, includes on the flights, which is quite a large component of most trips that you might be taking. In this episode, I thought it might be interesting, Wilson, to have a chat about the strategies that we use when planning our trips. We do book most of our own travel, and just talk about like what tools we use and the strategies we use to save money on flights and get the best deals that we can when we're not using points. And I guess the first thing I would ask you, Wilson, is like when you're thinking about a trip, where's the first place that you go to look for good airfares?
Yeah, the number one tool for me is Google Flights. I absolutely love this. It's so much fun to play around with. The big thing for me with Google Flights is that it has this beautiful explore mode, which allows you to see the cheap destinations on a map that you can visualize exactly where things are and the cheapest flights from a particular origin to a particular destination. And so you can kind of, especially if you're traveling to somewhere like Europe, you can kind of get in the general vicinity of where you want to go and then get a train or a short, cheap flight, perhaps. And so it's not absolutely vital that you land in the specific city, and Google Flights is fantastic for that. It also has a bunch of filters to really narrow down your search, especially like for me, I have status with One World and Star Alliance. So if I only want One World and Star Alliance airlines, so I can use my status benefits, then I can filter all the rest out. So make sure I get the lounge access that apparently I need nowadays.
Well, there's always priority pass for that, but yeah, if you want to earn your points and status credits, it's definitely an option. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the explore mode as well on Google Flights. Like literally it's a visual map, and you can drag the map around and zoom in on different cities and see what the cheapest flights are in your desired class of travel, from whichever airport you put as your origin airport. And sometimes I'll play around even with different origin airports. Like if I'm coming from Australia, like I can look at Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Brisbane. Sometimes there might be a really good deal from Melbourne rather than Sydney, or vice versa, and just find, yeah, you can often find some good deals. It's also great for discovering error fares. Not that there's too many of those anymore, but yeah, Google Flights is great. And Wilson, you have written a guide to Google Flights, which we'll link in the episode notes. But what else? What other tools are there?
I do also sometimes use ITA Matrix, which is sort of the original engine behind Google Flights before Google Flights replaced it. It's very clunky in some regards. It's much less user friendly, but it does display a very holistic sort of view of the airfares offered between multiple origin airports and multiple destination airports. So you can do, I guess, a large search for specific routings, and there are more filters there that do require a little bit of, I guess, investigating of the codes that you need to input when you're searching, but it can be really useful, and actually it does have a really good calendar view.
Yeah, I love on ITA Matrix that you can see easily the fare class and also like easily bring up the fare rules and the ticketing rules to see like whether stopovers are allowed and things like that. So it helps you to really, I guess, play. If you're looking at quite a complex fare, you can really play around with it and maximize the benefits that you can get out of the fare rules.
Yeah, it's definitely niche, and for some reason airlines love to hide fare classes, but knowing what fare class you have is very useful, isn't it?
Sorry to go off topic for a minute, but Qantas, if you're listening, please add just display the fare class on your website when you're booking a flight. You shouldn't have to have a university degree to find out what fare class you're booking, which is very important if you're wanting to earn points and status credits with a partner airline.
We know that they have it, because if you book with the business rewards portal, you can see it.
Yeah, it feels like a feature of the website that it's not there rather than a bug. It feels like they're actually intentionally like hiding it, and I have no understanding of why that is. Because if you need the information, it'll be really good to have, and if you don't need the information, it doesn't reduce the booking experience in any way. So. But
We,
anyway,
we
so
could talk about this for a while. Hmm.
all right, let's move on. So for domestic flights, let's start with domestic because that's uh, I guess much less complex. What are some tips to get cheap tickets around Australia?
I mean, I guess the easiest way to do it would be to subscribe to airline email lists. They'll often send you an email blast when there's a sale on, and turns out there's often lots of sales on, whether it be to specific destinations or just a general sale. But Jetstar not too long ago had $29 flights between major city pairs, including Sydney to Melbourne. They just advertise that by email blast. It's really, really good deal, actually.
Yeah, and Jetstar and Virgin also have regular weekly sales.
Yeah, that's true. And for Jetstar, it's the Friday Fare Frenzy. Coincidentally, it's on Fridays. And Virgin Australia Happy Hour, which runs on Thursdays. And these are regular. In most weeks, they're not every week, but you can often find discounted flights to specific destinations.
Yeah, and like even if you're booking outside of Virgin's happy hour, I think that's 4 to 11 p.m. on Thursdays. Like it's good to keep an eye on. If you're booking outside of that, you can sometimes also get discounts using a promo code, or you can even get cash back by clicking into the Virgin website from Cash Rewards. It's not a huge amount; it might be one or a couple of percent, but every little bit
Every
helps.
bit helps.
Yeah, and Jetstar also has a price beat guarantee.
Yeah, so Jetstar's price beat guarantee can be applied to both domestic and international flights. But for domestic flights, you have to find a flight from a competitor. So it has to be on the same route as well, and it has to be within 1 hour of the departure time of the Jetstar flight. If you do that, you can fill out a form, I believe, on the Jetstar website.
It's like a live chat or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not the best user experience, but I can't blame them, I guess, in a way, because you get an extra 10% off.
Off the competitor's fare, in fact.
Yeah, you can save a decent amount. You do have to fly Jetstar, but I guess that's not too bad for a short domestic flight.
Yeah, I mean, the Jetstar price beat for domestic routes was a little bit more useful when Rex had really cheap fares on overlapping routes, and I guess Bonza as well had a few overlapping routes with cheap fares. Nowadays, I mean, really, you're only really going to be price beating Virgin if they happen to be cheaper, which is not that often. But for international routes, it can be quite interesting because on international long haul flights, it only has to be on the same like the competitor's flight only has to be on the same calendar day. And so if you wanted to fly, I don't know, to Vietnam or something, and Vietjet Air has a really, really cheap flight, like that could be quite interesting, actually.
Yeah, they often do, and especially with the low cost carriers in Asia, it's pretty common actually. You can find a pretty good deal.
Yeah, the one thing about the price beat fares, though, is that you can't add a bundle, so you can't earn points or status credits on these. It has to be the starter fare with no baggage, and you can obviously pay to add on baggage and stuff, but it still can get you quite a cheap deal. We're going to have a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about finding cheap flights on long haul routes to overseas destinations. New to the world of points or want to level up your game? You can learn even more and improve your travel experience with Australian Frequent Flyer membership. It's completely free to join AFF and participate fully on our lively discussion forums. But did you know that AFF also offers gold and platinum memberships with even more benefits? AFF Platinum members get access to our full library of frequent flyer training courses and can attend all AFF webinars. There's 8 per year that I host. And AFF Gold and Platinum members also enjoy discounts with Qantas Club, Lounge Pair, Frequent Flyer Concierge, and more. For full details or to sign up, visit australianfrequentflyer.com.au or click on the link in the show notes. All right, let's have a look at some strategies to get cheaper flights to international destinations, and let's start with Asia. So obviously from Australia to Asia, there's a lot of non-stop flights on both full service and budget airlines. What are the cheapest options?
I mean, the absolute cheapest options would be your low cost carriers. They're your AirAsia, Cebu Pacific, Scoot, Jetstar, of course. Um, they offer
Vietjet.
cheap fares. Oh yes, Vietjet is very cheap.
It's very cheap, but Wilson, you've flown them I think from Melbourne to Ho Chi Minh City. Would you recommend?
Not overly for the price. I have to say it was around 200 and I think $220 or something like that.
Wow, and given the departure taxes from Australia, like I mean, the actual fare going to Vietjet would be very low.
I think Vietjet made about $60 off me for that entire flight. So that was with no baggage, but It's not an overly comfortable experience, and they use ex AirAsia planes, so it's pretty similar to the AirAsia experience as well, which is quite tight. These low cost carriers, obviously, they're cheap for a reason. They cram as many people in as
Mm.
possible. So on the A330s, they have 9 abreast economy cabins, which mean the seats are about 16 inches wide. That's quite thin. The Dreamliners that Scoot uses and Jetstar uses as well, they are a little bit wider, but the legroom isn't fantastic. So that's the price you pay.
Yeah, I guess if you don't want the low cost experience, you could look for a sale fare on Qantas or Singapore Airlines or Cathay Pacific or one of those airlines, or even consider one of the premium cabins on those low cost airlines like Jetstar Business Class or Scoot Plus. AirAsia has the premium flatbed. You've tried a couple of those, haven't you?
Yeah, so I've done Scoot Plus before, and it was pretty much like a premium economy seat, and you get a few nice little inclusions. I haven't tried AirAsia's premium flatbed. It seems much more closer to like the old angle flat business class that a lot
Yeah,
of airlines used to have.
Yeah, I have flown that one, Kuala Lumpur to Melbourne overnight. It was pretty good, just except that, yeah, like if anyone remembers the old Qantas Skybed Mark One seats, which were like on a kind of, they're not 180 degrees lie flat, they're kind of like 160 or 165 degrees, which basically meant that I was sliding down the bed for most of the night. But still, it's way better than economy, and I did sleep a few hours, and you get like one meal and one drink included, I think, in the fare as well. So for the price, it was worth it.
Worth noting that you can actually find some decent business class deals if you start from Asia back to Australia. I've seen like Philippine Airlines, for example, from Malaysia to Australia return, and it's quite reasonably priced. Obviously, you have to go via Manila in this case, but it's a lie flat bed, it's a full service airline. So you have to be a bit, you can be a bit flexible, but you can get great deals as well. Another way to get cheap business class flights to Asia could be to buy points from airlines. So you can buy points from a lot of different airlines and then redeem them for flights. Aeroplan are a great option for doing this, especially to Asia. So you can buy Aeroplan points. You only need 45,000 for Australia to Singapore, for example, on Singapore Airlines. That would cost you around about $1,000 plus the taxes and fees, but it's quite minimal. So it's a lot cheaper than paying the cash fare, which is often quite expensive.
Yeah, and I mean, Aeroplan partners with Singapore Airlines, in theory, Thai Airways, and all the other Star Alliance carriers. So got a few options there. What about to Europe?
Europe's much harder to get to. There's the often talked about Australia tax, which because we're so far away from everything, everything costs more. For economy class, if you're open to trying new airlines, I find a lot of the Chinese airlines do have decent deals to a lot of airports in Europe. Some that are a little bit out of the way, such as Budapest, or I guess less out of the way, but Milan, Paris is you can get a bit cheaper than your normal, I guess, Emirates or Qantas or Qatar Airways.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty cheap fares as well on Royal Brunei from Melbourne to London. And those flights, okay, Royal Brunei is a dry airline, so just have that expectation going in. But with, fairly short connections through Brunei and Dubai on the Dreamliners. Um, no alliance membership. They're not a partner of Qantas or Virgin, so you can't earn Qantas points or velocity status credits or whatever. But you can get a good price for business class, though. Like as if you've looked at business class fares from Australia to Europe recently, they're generally between about $6,000 to $10,000, or sometimes even more, on full service airlines. I mean, some of the like secondary airlines can have them closer to about the $6,000 mark, like Vietnam Airlines or things like that. But you can get even much cheaper still by positioning to Asia.
Yeah, so you can use some of the strategies we talked about in the Asia bit to get to Asia. And then from there, it is often cheaper to book business class from Asia to Europe as a return flight on especially the Middle East carriers. I find Etihad has great deals out of Jakarta, Manila, even sometimes Singapore. And that's onto a fair few airports in Europe. Common ones that I find cheaper are Lisbon, Dublin, Barcelona. Business class from Asia to Europe, you could get for maybe $2,500 to $3,000 return on a
Mm.
great airline, which you can earn a bunch of points on as well, which is always good.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Asia to Europe is about two-thirds of the distance of Australia to Europe, but it's about one-third of the price. So it's if you're buying business class, like it can you can get some very good deals. Like Etihad out of Manila or Jakarta, for example, can be quite cheap. I think at the moment as well, Saudia Airlines from Singapore to Barcelona is around 2,200 Australian dollars return in business class, with a stops in Jeddah or Riyadh, I guess, both ways. But
Yeah.
it's a life flight business class product, Sky Team member. Yeah,
It is
I've
also a
also
dry airline.
yes,
I will note.
also a dry airline. You could probably guess by the name, but yes, it is. Yeah, I've also in the past been quite happy using Air Astana from Thailand to the UK and back. About $3,000 return for business class via Kazakhstan. Great product. I may or may not have mentioned that before on this podcast.
You're
Um,
quite partial to Air Astana, I've heard.
I am. But even Qatar or Finnair, some of the full service one world airlines can have good deals out of Thailand or out of Malaysia or Indonesia, Singapore, and yeah, just position to Asia.
Exactly. If you have some points as well, and we're not really going to focus on points here, but finding award flights to Asia is a lot easier than finding them to Europe. So you can use your points for flights to Asia and then connect onto a cash fare from there. It's a great way to save a lot of money and use those points.
Yeah, if you're using two different tickets, which you probably have to do in this case, like one ticket from Australia to Asia, which might be a return ticket, and then a second return ticket from Asia to Europe, just be mindful that if the inbound flight into Asia is delayed, you're not really going to be protected. So if you no show for a flight, like for the next flight, and it's on a different ticket, that's kind of at your own risk. So for that reason, I always allow at least a day between flights. And actually, I really like breaking up the trip anyway because it makes the trip to Europe so much easier. So that for me, that's absolutely no issue, and you can spend some time in Asia, enjoy the nice weather and some good food. But yeah, you do. But you do also need to account, of course, for the cost of the hotel that you might need for the overnight stop. If you need to pay for extra baggage on more than one ticket, that could be a consideration. And it does also take more time. So if you really just need to get to Europe and back quickly, I mean, of course, that's not going to be so easy to do when you're doing these kinds of tricks. But for the savings, it's well worth it, I think, for most people.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. Especially to be able to sleep on a plane, it's always much better.
Yeah. What about to North America? So, I mean, like the nonstop flights on like airlines like Qantas, United, American Airlines, like you can sometimes get some reasonable sale fares. Also, Delta out of Brisbane, I think, has some quite good deals. Sometimes, like I've seen flights for under $1,000 return out of Brisbane, so that could be one to look at. But there's an even cheaper option, especially if you just want a one-way ticket.
Yeah, so it's flying Jetstar to Honolulu and then taking a little cash fare from Honolulu to wherever you want in the Americas. Jetstar to Honolulu is often very cheap. I've
It's dirt
seen
cheap.
fares for like $250 one way. The timings are absolutely horrible, in my mind at least. Like you depart like 4 p.m. in the afternoon and arrive at 5 a.m. or something like that.
It's not my favorite kind of flight, but for 200 or $250 for a one-way flight, and of course the key thing here is you're not getting penalized for buying a one-way ticket. Like if you book a one-way Qantas or United fare to the US, it's probably going to be more expensive than a return ticket, which is not the case on Jetstar being a low-cost airline.
Exactly. And it also gives you options, I guess, because obviously that there's only so many sort of direct flights from Australia to the US, so you're going to have to connect anyway. If you're connecting from Hawaii, then I guess it doesn't necessarily add too much more time, but again, you'll probably be buying separate tickets, so just bear in mind you won't be protected if the Jetstar flight is late, and Jetstar do have some reliability issues sometimes.
Right. And there's also like secondary airlines like Fiji Airways or Air New Zealand, which could offer some good deals. Just beware with Air New Zealand. If your flight gets cancelled for a reason outside of Air New Zealand's control, they won't refund you. They'll only give you a travel credit, which puts me off personally booking with them. But um,
That's a personal experience, is that?
yeah, I had a COVID credit with Air New Zealand, and their policy is still exactly the same. You can pay more for a refundable ticket, but if you don't do that, it's still exactly the same policy now. They cancelled my flight and gave me a credit.
Wow.
I used the credit to rebook. They cancelled that flight, and then I reused that to rebook another flight. Then they cancelled the next flight, and I ended up having to rebook using that credit like 5 times. So that wasn't a great experience, and I could not get a refund.
I would note that Fiji Airways has both good economy deals and business class deals. It's often a bit cheaper than your direct flights for the obvious reason that you have to stop. But a stopover in Fiji is not too bad at the end of the day. Could You can work in a couple nights in Fiji, just soak up the sand, beach, sun, whatever you feel like. Another little trick I guess you can do is starting in Auckland for Qantas fares. Thanks to the, I guess, complexities or stupidity, some would say, of airline pricing. Out of Auckland, you could fly direct on Air New Zealand or United, or you could fly one stop via Sydney on Qantas. And so Qantas recognizes that it's not as ideal to fly via Sydney, and so they make the prices cheaper. So yeah, you pay less and you get to fly more.
Which could be a feature or an inconvenience depending on your point of view. Like for Qantas premium cabin fares in particular to the US, like it's often cheaper if you originate in New Zealand, and it doesn't have to be Auckland necessarily. It could be Wellington or Christchurch or Queenstown as well. South America is a bit of an interesting one because there is only two airlines flying nonstop between Australia or New Zealand and South America, and it's Qantas and LATAM to Santiago. They
And
even
they
co-chair on
partner,
each
don't
other's
they?
flights. Yeah, they're partners. So not a lot of competition, really. I guess if you want the convenience of the non-stop flight, you could always wait for a sale fare or try and use points. You can use Qantas points to fly on both Qantas and LATAM, and there is sometimes availability in even Qantas Premium Economy or LATAM Business Class. If you can't find availability from Sydney, look also from Melbourne or from Auckland. You might find something from there. Otherwise, you do have to fly via North America or via the Middle East on like Emirates or Qatar, one of those. Or you could alternatively go via South Africa, which is a bit of a I guess it seems like a bit of a roundabout way, but actually, if you wanted to go from Perth to Brazil, it's actually probably the quickest option because you can go like Perth to Johannesburg and then on to Sao Paulo on South African Airways, which you could also book with Velocity points, which could be a handy little trick there. For longer, sort of more complex multi-city or around the world trips, there's also special fares that you can get quite good deals with, like Finnair, Turkish Airlines, and Lufthansa Group offer around the world kind of tickets. So it's a return ticket from Australia to Europe, but you can travel in any direction. And so what that means is like you could travel from Australia to Europe via the US and then return via Asia and stop over in the US on the way there and stop over in Asia on the way back. And you can also get a couple of stops in Europe as well. So for like a kind of a quasi round the world ticket, that can be considerably cheaper than booking like, for example, a One World Explorer around the world fare or a Star Alliance around the world ticket.
Yeah, and the reason why these round the world fares on Finnair, Turkish, Lufthansa are actually really good value is that they compare quite well to pricing just for like a return trip to Europe. So for economy flights, the Finnair fare is around $2,000 to $2,500 as a starting price. And for business class, you can get the Finnair fare and Turkish Airlines fare for around 8 to 9 grand. It does depend on the airports that you travel to. So, and these fares can also only be booked by travel agents. So it's worth sort of figuring it out with your travel agent to get the best combination of destination and price.
Yeah, and you can also book these in premium economy and first class too, in the case of Lufthansa.
Now, if you want to visit a few more places on a round the world journey, OneWorld offer a specific fare for this.
Yeah, there's the One World Explorer that the price is based on the number of continents you visit. So continents is kind of a loose term. One World considers, the Middle East and Europe to be part of the same continent, for example. But you can, if you're wanting to do like quite a lot of flights as part of a round the world trip, you can get up to 16 flight sectors in one of these. And the pricing is uh, all things considered, considering the amount of flights you can get in and also the amount of flexibility, is pretty good. It is a bit expensive if you book out of Australia, but a trick that some people use is to instead start your journey in Japan. And the reason for this is that the One World Explorer fares have a different base price depending on which country the first flight in your ticket departs. And for whatever reason, the fares originating in Japan are significantly cheaper than those originating from Australia, especially for the premium cabins where the price difference Obviously, because we're dealing with larger numbers, the price difference is quite significant. So yeah, booking a One World Explorer ticket out of Japan, obviously you have to add a positioning flight to get to Japan, and you also probably will need to end your trip in Japan eventually, but you do get basically unlimited stopovers on this ticket. So you can obviously stop over in Australia mid-trip, and then use the last flight to go back to Japan, maybe for a second holiday, even if it's months later. So if you're wanting to book a lot of flights, you could get some quite good deals. And I mean, a business class One World Explorer would earn you enough Qantas status credits to earn or renew platinum status with Qantas. And we do have a guide to the One World Explorer fare as well on AFF, which we'll link to in the episode notes. Well, I think that's a pretty comprehensive summary of some of the ways to get cheap flights, Wilson. Thanks very much for listening, everyone. I hope you found that an interesting discussion, and we'll see you next time on the next episode of Travel Pointers. Happy flying.
Thanks for listening.